headed down those hot, dusty roads, here's some Buffalo Springfield to help you bring it home.
Don't tell no tales about no hot, dusty roads. I'm a city boy, and I stay at home. I make no excuses, I just don't want to roam, and I don't like being alone.
Oh, baby, it's hot out there today with no relief in sight.
We'll return you to the classic sounds of Phoenix in just a moment. But first, friends, this warning, that the sunburn index is high today, so remember that sunblock and drink plenty of fluids.
All right, be sure to get yourself downtown today for the only thing hotter than the weather, the Iceberg U.S. Grand Prix. So stand on it and don't be late, because even though it's hot outside, all the cool people will be there, baby. That's the Iceberg Grand Prix race starting at 1:40. Don't be late.
Understand? No. Okay. Sign this ticket right here.
ESPN, celebrating its 10th year as the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Phoenix, Arizona, crown jewel in the Valley of the Sun, where it's clear more than 300 days of the year, and never more so than today for the inaugural running of the Formula One Iceberg United States Grand Prix. It is 100 degrees air temperature here in Phoenix, and the track is 155 degrees Fahrenheit. But of course, out here in Arizona, it's a dry heat. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, proud to welcome you to our exclusive ESPN live coverage of what promises to be a very exciting afternoon of auto racing. There will be no international feeds today, just our own ESPN cameras bringing you Formula One motorsports the way we think you'd like to see them. For you and more than 200 million viewers in 81 countries around the world, including Australia, where they're hearing our words as well as seeing our pictures, so a special good day to all of our friends down under. 4 months ago, when it was announced that Phoenix would host the USGP, everybody said, no way, 4 months isn't enough time to get ready. But here we are today, ready for the start of the US Grand Prix, and what the 26 Formula One drivers are facing is a 2.36-mile course that is very challenging. For more on that, let's meet our regular ESPN Formula One analyst once again, David Hobbs. David?
Well, Bob, street circuits do present many challenges of their own, not the least of which is poor visibility. Every one of these corners is blind to these drivers because of the close proximity of the concrete walls both sides, and in fact, to start with, it's sometimes even hard to find these corners, let alone aim the car through it. City streets require to be crowned for rain runoff. This, of course, means that most of these corners have an adverse camber on exit, and this, plus the normal residue from everyday driving, makes the track extremely slick. With no possibility of pre-race testing, a very steep learning curve commenced here on Friday morning. And we had over 50 incidents and spins during Friday and Saturday practice and qualifying. It even caught out such luminaries as Derek Warwick, who backed into the wall, and even the professor himself. Yep, Alan Prost spun 3 times over the weekend, more than he would normally do in an entire year. Another thing this circuit does, being relatively short, relatively simple, it does play into our hands with one little bit of an advantage. And with that, more from John Bisignano in the pits. John?
Well, David, I think the advantage is really to the viewers. This is the tightest Formula One grid I've ever seen. 23 cars are separated by only 2 seconds. What that means is the last man on this grid is only 2 seconds slower than Nigel Mansell in his Ferrari, way up in 4th qualifying position. With that tight running, it takes a great amount of concentration on the part of the drivers to miss the walls and miss one another. It's very warm. That heat also interferes with their concentration. For more from that, here's Marty Reed.
The heat's going to be the great equalizer today, John. Cockpit temperatures are going to reach 160 degrees. And yesterday when we polled the drivers and asked them if they were going to wear cool suits, cool helmets, cool patches, or water bottles, they all looked at us and sort of said, what, you're assuming that we're not fit? Well, that's not the case today. We did a poll just before the race, and no less than 10 drivers will now have either water bottles, cool patches at the bottom of the neck, or in the case of the Brabhams, they're running the complete cool helmet. And in the case of Alain Prost, just over our shoulders, he's put aluminum foil on the top of his helmet. This worked for him very well when the Grand Prix was held back in Dallas.
Now, we'll be keeping track of that tire situation. Recall Mexico a week ago where Alain Prost chose to mix hard and soft compounds, made a mistake, blistered his tires, went backward through the field to 5th place, while Ayrton Senna made not a single stop on his way to victory lane. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Iceberg United States Grand Prix is brought to you by Audi. Conform to the road, not the rules. Audi, the alternate route. By Mobil 1 Synthetic Motor Oil. Mobil 1, is it your car worth the extra protection? And by Olympus, makers of 35mm cameras and video. We'll be back to set the starting grid for the upcoming United States Grand Prix and give you a closer look at the road course they'll be battling on when we return to Phoenix after this. Welcome back to Phoenix. You're watching live as we prepare for the start of the Iceberg United States Grand Prix. The drivers are in their cars and ready, and we'll take a look in just a moment at how they will line up for the start. As John mentioned, it is a very, very tight grid. On the pole for the 5th time this year, the 8th in a row and record 34th of his career, from Brazil, the defending world champion Ayrton Senna in the McLaren Honda. He has a fat 1.5-second margin over the man to the outside, his teammate from France, the 2-time former world champion Alain Prost, also in a McLaren. Inside row 2, Alessandro Nannini of Italy in the Benetton would be his best start of the year, but remember, he had a big crash this morning. We're not sure of his condition right now. To his right will be Nigel Mansell of Great Britain, who did not improve in yesterday's second-round qualifying, but is still having a good weekend in the Ferrari. Inside row 3 will be Englishman Martin Brundle, just turned 30 last Tuesday in his Brabham. Next to him will be young Italian Alex Caffi, driving the first of 2 Dalaras in the field. Inside row 4, from Italy, Stefano Modena, after a big 3rd-place finish at Monaco in the second-team Brabham. Next to him will be Gerhard Berger of Austria in the Ferrari, admittedly still struggling after his fiery crash in Italy 6 weeks ago. Inside row 5, Michele Alboreto having a great weekend in a brand-new Tyrrell 018. Next to him, Englishman Derek Warwick in the first of 2 US F&G Arrows cars. Inside row 6 will be smiling Italian Ivan Capelli in the Leighton House March Judd, carrying our in-car camera today. Next to him, Frenchman Philippe Alliot in a Lola with Chrysler-supported Lamborghini 12-cylinder power. Inside row 7, Italian Andrea De Cesaris in the second Dallara Ford, just turned 30 last Wednesday, another birthday boy. Next to him will be Ricardo Patrese, coming off a big 2nd place at Mexico a week ago in the Williams Renault. Inside row 8, Italy's Pierluigi Martini in the improving Minardi team. Next to him, Terry Boutsen of Belgium, having an admittedly grumpy weekend in the Williams Renault. Inside row 9, Eddie Cheever, Phoenix-born and the big star of the media here over this weekend in the second Arrows car. Next to him, Mauricio Gugelmin of Brazil, our second in-car camera aboard the March Judd. Row 10 will be Stefan Johansson of Sweden, making his 2nd start of the year in the Onyx Ford, next to Luis Sala of Spain in the second-team Minardi car. Row 11 will be Dr. Jonathan Palmer of Great Britain in the second-team Tyrrell machine, next to Nelson Piquet, the 3-time world champion from Brazil, in the 400th GP start for the Lotus team. Inside row 12 will be Piquet's Japanese teammate Satoru Nakajima, next to Gabriele Tarquini. That's right, Tarquini. We've been mispronouncing his name all year. That Italian driving for the AGS team. And the final row, 13, will be Johnny Herbert, the 24-year-old sensation from Great Britain in the Benetton Ford. Next to him, Germany's Christian Donner in a Real with Ford power. Coming up, 81 laps of this smooth, wide, and fast Phoenix street circuit. For a closer look, we'll climb aboard our in-car, and here's David to narrate.
Phoenix, Arizona, town of sunshine and heat, set in the southwest corner of the United States, and for today, a Grand Prix racing venue on this 14-turn course set right in the heart of downtown Phoenix. Let's go for a lap with Ivan Capelli yesterday afternoon in practice. Right here, he's at about 160 miles an hour on Jefferson Street as he puts his brakes on for turn 1, makes a nice apex right up there close to the wall and takes 2nd gear. Stays in 2nd gear as he goes onto 1st Street, onto Madison briefly, another left-hander as he goes onto 2nd Street, stays in the same gear all through this complex. The sharpest turn on this course, back onto Jefferson, a bit of a sweeper here, they don't count this as a turn though. Goes up to the gearbox. Hard on the brakes again for turn 5, another left-hander. This course could be a bit tough on right rear tires because as you can tell they're accelerating very hard through these streets. Down past the Civic Plaza now on 5th Street before he turns in turn 6 and goes on to Monroe. Up and down to the gearbox today like a one-armed paper hanger in a gale. These guys are going to have a very, very busy and hot afternoon. Down 3rd Street, under the bridge a bit of break up there from the in-car camera. Turns right onto Washington, now coming to the second fastest straight on this raceway. He'll get up to about 148, 150 miles an hour down here. Just look at those white lines whistle by. Good job there's no cops wandering around this afternoon. A very difficult corner, this turn 9. You can't see it coming. You have to use that building there with the columns as a marking point. The racetrack broke up there on Thursday in some unofficial practice, but they seem to patch it for today's race. Another little complex here. Very, very lot of gear shift here, about 35 shifts a lap most of these guys will be doing. The Ferrari, of course, will be doing more as they've got 7 speeds to play with. Turns right, back onto Washington again, very, very briefly. Now we have the most difficult corner here. Apex there, swings wide, stays in the same gear. Another apex as he comes back onto Jefferson, the main front straight, and accelerates right up to the gearbox into 6th gear as Ivan Capelli completes a lap of practice yesterday afternoon for today's Grand Prix.
All right, you're looking from high overhead down onto the street course just to the right of all the tall buildings, the 2.36-mile Phoenix street course that a lot of folks said would never get put together in time for this race. The cars, as you see, are out there making a very slow reconnaissance lap at this point. Let's take a look now at our pick 6, and we'll give Marty Reed the opportunity to show how much he knows about Formula One. Remember, 1 point for getting a driver in the top 6, 2 points if you get him in his proper position. David, why don't you lead off?
Okay, well, you've obviously got to choose Senna for the win here. Nigel Mansell, I hope, will get over his gearbox reliability problems come second. Alan Prost not having a good weekend, but he's bound to be right up there. Alboreto, Warwick and Brundle all having very good weekends so far, and I expect to see them all in the points.
I think you show remarkable insight, my friend. I see it Senna, Mansell, Prost. I'll move Warwick up to 4th position, followed by Brundle and Alboreto. Now let's go down to the pits and hear from John.
Is going to win this USA Grand Prix. After that will be Alboreto. Prost, I have him as 3rd. Warwick, he has been running very well. Let's see him come in 4th. Martin Brundle on the Brabham and on the Pirelli tires 5th. And I've got to go with Eddie Cheever, the only American in this race. He's ready to score a point in the 6th place. Martin, welcome to pick 6.
Well, just to show you it's not my first time at the beach, until he's beaten, I got to go with Senna also. But surprisingly, I can't support Mansell or Berger. I don't think the Ferraris are going to make it. Prost, Brundle, Alboreto, Warwick, and my sleeper, Riccardo Patrese.
Thank you, gentlemen. Right now, David is leading in the standings, followed by John and myself. There you see the scores. 12 for Hobbs, 11 for Visignano, 9 for Varsha. Marty can catch me in one day, although I don't plan to see it. Only 7 drivers nominated for our pick 6. So that shows you just how tight the competition here is. Now the cars are lining up. Once they are all in place, the green flag will be waved. They'll be turned over to starters' orders, and we have somebody waving in the middle of the grid. We may have a stalled car. They are pushing back the Dallara of Andrea De Cesaris, who missed his starting spot. There was no problem. He is in his starting spot. There's the green flag. Look for the red light. Within 4 seconds, they will start. And they are away. The field is away. Black strips of rubber up and down Jefferson Street in Phoenix. And it looks like Senna has chopped across the bow of his teammate. No, make that Prost in the lead. He's got a sharp right-hand turn coming up. Senna takes it back.
That's Senna. You just can't give him an inch. Alan Prost did everything he could to hold him out. Moved across into turn 1, but it was to no avail. Senna stole the lead and watched for him to drive off. There's the 2 battles, well.
And it looks like a clean start, which is more than I anticipated. I thought we were going to have some mechanical carnage out here. Tightest turn on the racetrack. They've just navigated now a fast left-hand sweeper on Jefferson Street. Left hand in front of the Civic Plaza, and they'll drive all the way around the block, up 5th Street to Monroe, where they'll make a left turn. Ayrton Senna is your leader. In 2nd place is Prost. Nannini in 3rd, despite his injuries. Looks like Mansell in the Ferrari is 4th, followed by teammate Berger in 5th. And then come the 2 Brabhams. I can't make out, looks like Brundle first, followed by teammate Modena.
Gerhard Berger must have made an absolute flyer there, because he qualified down the grid just a little bit, but he managed to make another of his absolutely superb starts and threaded in there right behind his teammate, Nigel Mansell.
I made a mistake. That's not a Ferrari. There's a Dallara back there running in the 4th or 5th position. I can't make out the driver just yet. There you see, it is Caffey, who is being passed by Brundle, who lights up with brakes, and he misses the turn.
On that concrete patch, that's the patch that was put down on Thursday afternoon. A little bit slick. He got offline and paid the penalty for it, but not too badly. He was pretty lucky there. He got back into the race very, very quickly. In fact, right in front of Gerhard Berger, who is in the 2nd Ferrari back there, just in front of Martin.
We're going to take another look at what just happened there. Martin Brundle making a slight mistake early on. David?
Trying to outbrake there. You can see him leaving black rubber there with his left wheel. Slides just past the apex. Not too bad, though. Manages to collect it all up and is back in the race. There we see Nannini hanging right on. He's doing extremely well. Ran very strongly this morning and in qualifying. Let's just hope he's in good shape physically after this morning's bump.
There you see the battle between the 25-year-old Italian Alex Caffey and the Dallara. Right there, the red car in the middle of your picture. Behind him, the world sports car champion Martin Brundle of Great Britain, celebrating a new sponsor and a new contract. Both Modena and Brabham have been optioned for 1990 by the Brabham team, which has quickly made its way to the front rank of Formula One in 1989.
Both those guys have to actually pre-qualify to get into the real qualifying to take part in these races. So if they have just one slip-up on Friday morning, they wouldn't be seen here on Sunday afternoon. The lead staying very close here. Senna not putting much daylight between himself and Alan Prost. But of course, that's not unusual. He does tend to take it very coolly at the beginning, even though he made a very daring move into that turn one.
Caffey, Modena, Brundle, and Gabriele Tarquini were the 4 drivers who advanced from Friday morning at 8 o'clock in the pre-qualifying session to enter the general session of 30 cars. From those, 4 cars were eliminated to get to the field of 26 that you see racing now. There is the battle continuing between Caffey and Brundle. In close association there is, that is Modena now. That is the number 8 Brabham. That is Stefano Modena right there. And it is Brundle who is watching from the next position.
Well, Brundle, of course, slipped back there on that braking incident on turn 1, which allowed his teammate Modena to get by him. And, of course, now these 2 young Italians, 2 of the youngest drivers in the race, absolutely duking it out there for a high position in this, the first Phoenix Grand Prix.
And look at how tightly bunched the cars are. Even using the long lens and looking up the front straightaway on Jefferson Street. As John mentioned, it was an incredibly tight qualifying session. And right now, we're seeing the results of that. Nobody is backing off here in the early stages of the United States Formula One Grand Prix. There is Caffey, who has had his points reinstated, by the way. You may recall from our Imola coverage that Caffey and Terry Boutsen in the Williams were disqualified for changing tires and starting from the pit lane following the big accident suffered by Gerhard Berger. But after all the rule books had been shuffled and all the juries had been assembled, Boutsen and Caffey were given back their points and have climbed back into the competition for the World Championship.
Maintaining very, very close contact. There's Michele Albretto. Derek Warwick there hanging on right behind Michele Albretto. There we see Derek Warwick followed by, that looks like Riccardo Patrese in the first of the Williams Renaults. And behind him is one of the marchers. That's Capelli, I suspect. Yes, it is Capelli.
Derek Warwick, presently shown in 11th place on the racetrack, followed, you're right, David, by Patrese in the 12th spot. Now recall, there's 2 of every car in this race, and they do get a little bit hard to identify. Virtually the only way you can do it is by checking out the color of the driver's helmets.
Both arrows in that picture, Derek Warwick, Patrese, Capelli, and then right behind him is in fact Eddie Cheever. The lone, there he is, Eddie Cheever just coming to picture, and behind him, that must be Johnny Herbert in the second Benetton car. So running very well, because he started right on the back row.
Some of those slower qualifiers moving quickly through the field as we watch Derek Warwick. We mentioned that tires are expected to be a story here at Phoenix. For more on that, let's go to John.
We talked to Lee Gogg, who's the managing director of Goodyear International Motorsports. And for the first time I can remember, the teams are not following his total advice. Senna has gone out on a B and a C compound, the B on the right side of the car, the C's on the left. Now the B's are harder. They can go longer, but they don't have the grip. Prost is on the hard B's all the way around. Benetton's on B's, Williams are on B's, Tyrrell's are on B's. Everyone else on the Goodyears are using the C's. Now what Lee Gogg wanted everyone to do was go a little bit slower, let the traffic slow down the tires, and therefore make the C's last. But right now there's some boys out there on hard B's, and they're going to be slipping and sliding, and hopefully the C's will maintain that grip and let the V8s mostly go and run with the V10s and the V12s. A very interesting tire situation down here.
Well, it's hard to fault Ayrton Senna's tire selection. He went with a combination of B's and C's in Mexico a week ago, and it worked for him all the way to victory lane. We've got a spin. That's Tarquini in the AGS. Has got himself pointed into the barrier. Looks like, oh, it is a Lola. It's not a totally black car. It's one of the Lolas. That must be Felipe Alio in the 12-cylinder Lamborghini. I don't recall that he started without the engine cover on the back, but it looks like he certainly doesn't have it right now.
Well, that could have been an anti-heating device, of course, for this track today. They may have had an overheating problem, but we don't know about it. Here we're going to see a replay right now.
Keep watching the left of your screen. There he goes, right at the center of your screen, coming around. Looks like he just lost it under braking, David.
Yeah, that's the favorite thing on these street circuits, because A, you have to brake extremely hard, and B, the surface, as I already said in the track description, is very, very slick. And if you just turn in and try to turn on brakes, that's the sort of thing that happens to you.
And evidently he has lost the power and is stuck there for right now. We're going to take this opportunity to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Senna, Prost, Nannini, Mansell, and Caffey, your leaders. Back on on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. You're watching live at our leader, Ayrton Senna, who has opened up a big gap over his McLaren teammate Alain Prost. Boy, we've seen this before this year. There's Senna at the front of your picture. You see the interval back to Prost, and behind them, the third-place car of Nigel Mansell, the Ferrari. Behind him, Alex Caffey, having a terrific race in the Dallara. The cars will proceed out of your picture, and we'll pick up the racing going on farther back. There is Caffey, still being hounded by young Stefano Modena, who lives in the town of Modena, Italy, which, of course, is associated among race fans everywhere with the name Ferrari. Modena, in fact, once harbored a dream of driving for Ferrari, but right now he's with the resurgent Bravo team and doing very well, thank you. He's already got a third this year at Monaco, so he is not out of place on a street circuit. Behind him is Martin Brundle, his teammate, in the second Bravo.
The Bravos do seem to do well on these street circuits. Part of their success, I feel, sure is down to their tyres. The Pirelli seem to operate well on these short, sharp straights with their tight, slow corners. They don't seem to operate quite so well yet on the fast open street circuits, so they won't be looking forward to their return to Europe when they go to places like Hockenheim and, of course, Silverstone and Paul Ricard. But I guess here they're going to do very well, and in fact, Stefano Modena is giving Alex Caffey a pretty good run for his money, and they're not very far behind Nigel Mansell and the Ferrari.
One of the unique things about the battle you're watching is that the same man designed both of these cars. Sergio Reenland worked for the Dallara team until he was rehired by the Brabham crew. He designed both the Dallara and the Brabham, so you're watching two of his creations going at it here on the streets of Phoenix.
Well, he seems to have got his sums right, doesn't he? And then right coming to the back of the picture there behind Martin Brundle in the second Brabham was Gerhard Berger, who's just out of the picture at the moment. But those two, Caffey and Stefano Modena, having a real battle royal here. I'm sure there's millions of Italians at home now watching these great pictures from ESPN saying, Forza Caffey, Forza Caffey, Forza Stefano. A lot of excitement in Italy at the moment as these two are having a great race for a fourth spot. And there we see Modena having a go down the inside. Tricky place to do it, but no, he pulled it off. A good passer.
At the end of the long front straightaway on Jefferson Street, Stefano Modena takes the position from Alex Caffey. So put Modena up into fourth and drop Caffey down to fifth.
And there's Martin Brundle about to take up the challenge to try and wind in his teammate, Alex Caffey, rather. Right behind him is Gerhard Berger. Obviously a question mark over Gerhard Berger's hands. There has to be in this circuit. That looks like Nannini.
That is Alessandro Nannini. Remember, he started fourth, but he is dropping steadily back now. He had a huge crash in this morning's half-hour warm-up session. He slid the car around, went backwards into the wall, complained of back pain. We'll have to watch him. Now here you see a battle between the Dallara of Andrea De Cesaris and Derek Warwick in the USF&G Arrows.
And right behind them is Riccardo Patrese doing his 181st Grand Prix start. What a record. And there we see Michele Alboreto just going out of the picture. De Cesaris, Derek Warwick, right behind him, Patrese. These guys are having a very, very close race here in midfield.
They're on the long backstretch here, 5 city blocks long, Washington Street. Now here comes Derek. No, he can't get to him. You see that strip of concrete? The pavement was seeping oil at that point. Of course, these are city streets. They get a lot of street cars and trucks on them. The oil was coming up, so they took all precautions necessary, dug it up, and put down some quick-drying concrete. Just an example of how the Phoenix Race Committee has done their best to make this a superb U.S. Grand Prix.
Here we come to the corner of the stars. This is where everybody had a spin in the practice at least one time. Derek caused a bit of damage there to his car, but in fact may have stopped himself from being higher up on the grid, which right now he could probably have enjoyed being.
Derek is
going down the back straight there, down the front straight here, trying to draft De Cesaris.
David, can they draft like a NASCAR race might offer?
Well, they can normally, but these straights here are just a tad short. So these cars are accelerating hard all the way down these straightaways. So if you've got just a little bit more horsepower and you're the car in front, it's hard for the guy in front. The toe helps. It does get towed along to a certain extent, but there's not enough terminal velocity to really, really make a good draft. But just not long. There we see that. And there's Stefan Johansson at the back there. Steve Johnson, as you called him last week. Having a go there's Patrese in the Renault engine Williams, going quite well this afternoon. Both him and his teammate Thierry Vincent had a really dodgy weekend. Haven't had much luck at all here. Behind him is Ivan Capelli in the first of the marches there. The new Jazz V8, narrow angle, different heads, different everything in fact. But not yet being able to put it to really good use because they've had too many chassis problems. Looks like Derek's going to have another go here.
He will try.
Derek wanting to get it.
Good contact. And right rear. De Cesaris swings the car back out and Looks like it's a flat right rear, and he can't steer it.
I think the suspension's broken, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Well, I don't think it's just flat, it's broken. There we see Gugelmin, the Lotus. There's Johnny Herbert. And coming up last is...
Now, here's the problem. Okay, we'll take a look at replay.
Warwick tries to do it. He's really too far back. He just really hasn't got much of a chance here. He slides up. The Chesworth tries to take the corner. It's too late. Derek Warwick's already there.
And Warwick definitely broke his left front as well. I think Warwick has probably got a problem that he'll not be able to fix as well. Now, there you see Andrea de Cesaris in the pits. They're going to try to remount the wheel. Evidently, they don't think it's a suspension, David. Or at least at this point.
That'll be fine if he's just got a flat tire. They're going to let him go out again.
Let's go down to Marty Reed in the pits.
So, guys, they have definitely just had to change the tire. The frame looks to be okay, and as you can tell, he's back underway.
But I don't think we're going to see Derek Warwick back underway. I watched him as he went out of our slow-motion replay, and the left front reel was definitely not pointed straight ahead.
Well, I'm afraid that was just one of those racing incidents. Derek was really too far back to try it. He got in between the de Cesaris and the corner. De Cesaris more or less had to turn. On the other hand, maybe a wiser driver wouldn't have actually turned in quite that tight, would have given Derek a little bit more breathing room, and they'd both be out there still racing again now. But unfortunately, both those cars now basically had a contest. And here we see the leader again, Ayrton Senna, well in front of his teammate Alan Prost. Both of them in turn, well in front of the field.
29-year-old Ayrton Senna, formerly Ayrton Senna da Silva of Brazil, but he adopted his mother's maiden name Senna only back in 1982. With his start, he has his 34th pole position in hand. Now, there you see Brabham in the white number 7 car being charged after by Gerhard Berger. Good battle right there. You're looking at the battle for 6th on the racetrack.
Gerhard Berger's probably almost certainly got more power than the Brabham, the Judd engine Brabham. But whether he can use it to its fullest extent around this tight circuit.
Now, here is where they came down the straightaway. You saw Berger go to the outside, hoping to juke Brabham to the outside with Brundle, which he did, but he got back in time to recover and take the turn. Good dice right there.
That is definitely what you can call defensive driving.
A V8 in the white number 7 against a V12 in the red number 28 of Gerhard Berger. Classic 12-cylinder Ferrari.
Like I said earlier, Gerhard Berger's hands have got to be suspect in this heat. Obviously, he'll sweat very badly. Here we see one of the marchers coming into the pits.
I believe that's Gugelmin, Mauricio Gugelmin, who has not had a good last few races. He failed to qualify a couple of times, including Mexico, where a lot of his family and friends journeyed from his native Brazil to watch him race.
He's waving too. He's going to get out.
Let's hear from John Bizignano.
Gugelmin came into the pits, but he is shaking his head, asking for his crew chief to kneel down next to him. They took all the tires off the car, but obviously there's a bigger problem than that. He is trying to communicate that to the crew now. As soon as we find out why he's sitting here, we'll let you know.
As I said, tough break for young Mauricio Gugelmin, a protege of Ayrton Senna, making his way in Formula One, but not having a good day today in the heat and on the streets of Phoenix. Plenty of live racing coming your way in this inaugural running of the United States Grand Prix at Phoenix, and we'll be back after this. 27 laps complete at the Iceberg United States Formula One Grand Prix, and there is your leader, Ayrton Senna, who was slowing down to about 137 per lap, which is 7 seconds off his qualifying time. He just ran his last lap at 135, so we're going to have to keep an eye, as you see him get a little bit tail happy there, pulling onto the back straight, and see if there, in fact, is something not wrong with Ayrton Senna's car. We think he may have a misfire. Our course workers out around the race course say they think that V10 Honda may be a little bit off song. We'll have to keep track of that.
Well, we'll have to wait till he comes past the booth. He certainly doesn't seem to be going too badly at the moment. As he winds his way through the streets, he must like street races. Of course, he won the last 3 races through the streets of Detroit in different types of car with different types of engines. So he does seem to like. Yep, it's misfiring badly.
Badly at this point. The thing was absolutely spitting as it came by. So we might prepare for a pit stop for Ayrton Senna, who you just saw there flip a hand out. I think he was taking a tear off of his visor to clear his vision. So
that is one thing that these Marlboro McLaren Hondas, of course, have been so notable for, is their incredible reliability. The Honda engine in particular. particular, over the last 3 years, the last 2 years of turbo formula, and this first year of non-turbo, have been so unbelievably reliable.
There goes Gabriel Tarquini in the AGS, and there is Alain Prost, who you can see is beginning to make up some time on his teammate. The car in the middle, the red and white with Marlboro colors, is Alain Prost. Now at Monaco, despite the fact that he won, Ayrton Senna lost the first 2 gears in his car, and he said one of his biggest troubles in the last 20 laps or so was to drive so that his teammate in second place would not know that he was in trouble. That is the competition between those 2 drivers. So Prost will no doubt be looking this time. If there is any problem whatsoever on his teammate's car, he is going to be looking for it.
Well, we know there is a problem as turns down to the downtown there. Misfiring all his way around. It'll be interesting to see if he comes into the pits or if he's going to try and brazen it out.
There you see Alain Prost, having done away with Gabriel Tarquini in the AGS Ford, is now beginning to creep up inexorably. The gap is down to 5.6 seconds between leader Senna and this man, the pursuer, Alain Prost. The Honda engineers, the ones that put the engines together for these cars, cornered me this weekend and said they'd like to correct something that was said in an earlier broadcast, to the effect that Honda's engineers back in Tokyo are watching the engine output, the computer output on these engines, and controlling what happens in the race from Tokyo. They said, no, that doesn't happen at all. All the information is monitored right here at the racetrack, and then it gets sent to Tokyo. I mentioned the competition between these guys, and it certainly is that. We asked Prost if he is able to race equally with teammate Senna.
I have a lot of problems. I mean, it's quite difficult to race like this because, first of all, I have an engine problem. I don't know why, but engine looks to work much less good in my car, and the fuel consumption is much better, a lot better in my car. That could explain the difference in horsepower sometimes. Like Mexico, when I'm behind him in the straight, it's absolutely impossible to stay behind him. And when he's behind, he overtakes me like in hell. So I was a bit worried, and it's quite difficult to race like this because you always think in your mind that you can't compete equally.
And there you see the Ferrari of Nigel Mansell now rolling on the pit road. He's got a problem. There you see the Real team who is pushing him down to his teammates with the A-Zip on the back of their shirts. Let's get down to Marty Reed and see if we can find out what's happening.
Well, he's just getting ready to pass my position. Of course, there is no fire in the motor. In fact, the team had to go down and get him. He's rolling towards John Bizignano. John?
4 mechanics had to run down, and actually Nigel Mansell says don't even bother putting it in the air. This car is absolutely finished. The man has been running up front in every Grand Prix all year long. He's been totally frustrated with the automatic gearbox, and we know exactly what's wrong this time. We'll get back to you.
In fact, that semi-automatic, electrically actuated 7-speed Ferrari gearbox has been a problem for them this year. Designed by Englishman John Barnard, who heads up the team, and he is a controversial leader in that effort. He is actually the technical director, and he does his work in Britain, and that to the dismay of Ferrari purists who think that the car should be conceived as well as built in Italy.
Well, of course, we don't know there's a gearbox yet. We're just assuming it is. It could be the engine. But I tell you what is amazing. Ayrton Senna went past here on the lap that we were seeing Nigel Mansell being pushed into the pits, and his engine is not misfiring. So that leads you to conclude, I wonder if this terrific heat here in Phoenix is causing some sort of an airlock problem in the fuel. Is the fuel vaporizing in the system somewhere and causing an intermittent misfire?
Well, it's not unlikely on the Honda cars. Rumor has it that the engineers preheat the fuel before it goes into the cylinders for better atomizing. Could be a problem in the heat of Phoenix. We'll be right back. We hope you're enjoying today's exclusive ESPN live coverage of the FIA Iceberg Formula One United States Grand Prix from Phoenix, Arizona. Today's Speed World coverage is brought to you by Acura Legend and Integra. Precision-crafted performance exclusively at your Acura dealer. And by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name. Ayrton Senna has lost the misfire in his 10-cylinder Honda engine, and the McLaren is performing well. He has set fast lap at 1:35.16 seconds. That's about 5 seconds slower than he qualified. Usually on a street course, his rubber gets built up, we expect to see the cars go faster. Has not happened to this point. But look at the gap back to the second place car of Alain Prost. Just 4 seconds behind now on the clock. I think it's a lot closer than that on the racetrack. Meanwhile, there's action in the pits. Let's go down to Marty.
Well, we're all the way down at the Brabham pit. Stefano Modena is in, and it's for the second time today, if I'm not mistaken. This is a brake problem all the way around. They are bleeding the lines. They've just finished pumping them back up, putting the wheels back on, but they've lost several laps to the field. It's got to be very disappointing to Modena.
And that'll take Stefano Moto right out of the top pick 6. Quite a shame, too, because he was running well.
He was running extremely well. And much as when he went past here last time, I think Ayrton Senna's got his misfire back again. It obviously is something that's coming and going, which would indicate it's a fuel problem.
And look how close Prost is as the two Brazilians in front of them battle. Nelson Piquet, who is not the closest of friends with Ayrton Senna, has let him go by. And look how close Prost is. Prost has now taken fast lap away from Ayrton Senna. Prost has set more fast laps in his career than any other Formula One driver. And right now, he has his eye on his teammate. He has finished second a couple of times, in fact 3 times this year. He finished 5th back in Mexico, and Alain Prost really needs a victory.
He needs a victory in the worst possible way. Coming up on Modena, just coming out of the pits there after that long stop. He'll probably let these guys go through. We've got quite a battle going on there with Nelson Piquet between Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost. Alain Prost going around the inside there.
Look how much Alain Prost gives birth to Nelson Piquet there. He just does not want to get anywhere close to him, just in case perhaps Brazilian national pride might overcome the personal animosity between Piquet and Senna. And we may have a lead change. We will most certainly have a battle between the teammates, Senna and Prost, and this could be very entertaining.
Coming up to put another lap on poor old Stefano Modena. What a shame. He got off to such a great start, was going very, very strongly, and his teammate Martin Brundle still is running in a very strong position out there.
33 laps in, 9 cars remain on the lead lap, led by these two, the McLaren teammates, Senna and Prost. Now, there is word from the pits that they may bring Senna in order to change tires, certainly, but perhaps see if they can find the cure to his engine problem. John Bizignano is standing by the McLaren pits. There you see Senna saying, pass me on the right side. I've got a problem. And he tells Alain Prost where to go by. He does. It's anticlimactic, but Alain Prost gives a little wave back saying, thanks, partner. That's the way teammates are supposed to operate. But nary a car length separates Senna now from new leader Alain Prost. For the first time since the green light here in the Iceberg U.S. Grand Prix, Alain Prost has taken control of the race. Let's see if Senna pits this time around.
Well, this is the pit entry.
And he does.
There you go.
Ayrton Senna heads down to pit road. Now, here is one of our ESPN additions to our motorsports coverage this year. This is the crew cam. It is being worn by the front jack man. There you see him stick it under the front. We're getting a little bit of interference there because of all of the different frequencies down on pit road. Let's go to John Bizignano.
They've been planning this pit stop for about the last 5 laps. As you can see, they're taking the nose cone off the car. Actually, it's the full bodywork. This will also get them back to the engine. There are 500 little Japanese mechanics running all over this engine. They had the plug set up. They had the black box all set up, ready to go. The bodywork is being held high in the air. Right now, we have no less than 16 or 17 people working on this particular McLaren. Ayrton Senna very frustrated, sitting there saying everything was going so right, and it turned so wrong. We'll get back with an exact report as soon as we have the information.
Well, our crew member carrying the camera, Gary Wimpy Wheeler, is no wimp at all. He stuck his head into the engine compartment there, and that's why we lost our picture. Look at the crowd around that car. The guys in the red shirts are the Honda mechanics. The guys in the Marlboro shirts are the McLaren guys. And I talked to team leader Ron Dennis, who says the guys from McLaren really have very little knowledge about what goes on in the engine. Honda keeps tight control. Their people deal with the engines. So if it weren't for those Honda guys there, I don't think anybody from McLaren would know where to look.
That right front tire they were just spinning there, it looked to me as if it's a bit blistered. It's either blistered or it's picked up. In fact, seeing the Honda McLaren here, one of the big disappointments in my life is that Ron Dennis asked me to drive one of these cars next week at a demonstration run at the Honda factory in Marysville, Ohio. And I was unable to do it because I should be in Le Mans, France at the same time. Big disappointment.
There you see Nigel Mansell, who was back on the racetrack. Whatever problem he had, they have got it solved on the Ferrari, so we've got drama all around the racetrack here. Senna has just gone a lap down, and that will be virtually impossible to make up, although count on Senna to try if there is any way that he can.
Well, he's got an hour left, so he could possibly
7, worn in the Ferrari kit by the late Gilles Villeneuve, still revered among Ferrari fans, the Tifosi around the world, now being held by flashing Englishman Nigel Mansell. Now there you see the engine cover coming back down on Ayrton Senna's McLaren. Will he come back out? It doesn't look as though they've changed those tires, and David, I agree with you. There's either some rubbish been picked up or he's got a blistered right front.
It could be that those last 2 or 3 slow laps picked it up.
Let's go back down to John Visignano.
They have changed the plugs. They have changed the back box. It was definitely an electrical problem. They're also having a little problem putting on the engine cover. And the question on the front tires, they were not chunked. They were not blistered. They had picked up one heck of a lot of rubber.
And so Ayrton Senna back on the racetrack, and you can tell by the way he left that he's going to try to make up some time in a big hurry. We'll be watching our fast lap monitors, and we'll tell you what happens when we come back. We're going to break away quickly, but you won't miss anything. You're watching live the Iceberg Formula One Grand Prix from Phoenix. The 31st running of the United States Formula One Grand Prix, but the first on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Bob Barsha with David Hobbs. Marty Reed and John Visignano are on pit road, and this man, Alain Prost of France, is leading a Formula One Grand Prix for the first time since the very first event of the year in Rio de Janeiro.
Leading it from, if I'm not mistaken, Alex Cappy.
Cappy up to second with Ayrton Senna's trip to the pits to replace spark plugs and get an electrical problem solved. Third place is Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari, and boy, is he a surprise guy right now. Followed by Ricardo Patrese, Eddie Cheever, and Martin Brundle to fill out the top 6. Those are the points-paying positions. 9, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1 are the points paid to the top 6, and only 6 in Formula One competition.
There we see, in fact, Martin Brundle dogging...
I believe that's Stefano Modena.
Oh, yeah, Stefano Modena after his pit stop.
Oh, Nigel Mansell has his arm up. He is stopping. Oh, what a shame.
Difficult courses, of course, for the driver. He doesn't know quite what to do with himself when he's going slow. There's nowhere to go, exactly. There are the odd strategic holes in the wall to push his car behind, but it's very difficult to know just exactly what to do with yourself.
He is just approaching the pit entrance at turns 13 and 14 on this 14-turn, 2.36-mile Phoenix street circuit. Now he's got a real decision to make. He's got to cross traffic to get to the pits, and he's going to try it. No, he just thought better of it, did Nigel?
He knew he wasn't going to make it across the road.
Well, recall in Mexico last week, he allowed himself to get all the way around to the backside of that very long racetrack before he finally parked the Ferrari and took a long walk to the pits. I guess he decided he wanted to get as close to the mobile home as he could this week before he got out.
Now, there is a crane there on the outside, and they'll probably lift his car over the barrier. In fact, where it is, it's relatively out of harm's way.
And there you see the leader making his way through, Alain Prost, as the battle continues on the streets of Phoenix. Meanwhile, John has more from pit road.
Information we have about Nigel Mansell is that it was a flat battery, and they changed the battery. They actually pulled the car into the garage, changed the battery, and Nigel got out of it. He put his helmet back on, got into it, and he went back out on the track. But right now, that battery seems to be a little bit more difficult of a problem than they can solve right away. We'll get the exact reason why he went totally out of this race when we have it.
Nigel Mansell, a scratch golfer. In fact, it was the first place he went within 30 minutes of getting to Phoenix. Jeez, Nigel, you're taking the straightest line between 2 points there, buddy. Someone asked Nigel what he thought of the course, of course, meaning the racing circuit here in Phoenix. Nigel said, well, I like it, but the 15th hole is really tough.
And, of course, that's poor old Nigel Mansell's 4th DNF this year. Not very good after such a cracking debut at Rio, where he had that great win with a couple of superb passes that we got on the old ESPN here. And of course, there we see our new leader, Alain Prost, no doubt very happy to be leading. And of course, if he wins this, that will be an incredible amount of wins.
Passing Luis Perez Sala of Spain, who along with teammate Pierluigi Martini, I think would be voted the handsomest team in Formula One if you ask the ladies of Formula One. 2 great-looking young guys and 2 good racers. But not enough to match steps with Alain Prost today. Now here is another battle. There you see Ricardo Patrese in the Williams, and he is running in the 4th position, trying to keep it from our own Eddie Cheever. And you know the whisper has gone around the crowd that Eddie Cheever, Phoenix-born, is out here running in the points in a Formula One race. And boy, would this be a boost to Eddie. He has had 2 7th-place finishes this year, but he would really like to get into the points. see them come under the Marlborough Bridge, the only real topography on this race course. They come up a hill and onto the long back straightaway of Washington Street in Phoenix. Although Eddie Cheever is the only American in Formula One, he is not the only Arizona resident who is a big star in Formula One. ESPN's Formula One associate producer, Doug Blackman, who drove that nice 57 Chevy in the open of our program, lives just up the road in Tucson, and he is no doubt grinning from ear to ear in the truck right now.
Yellow flags waving there. Of course, that's for the parked Ferrari of Nigel Mansell just around the corner. But as I said, it's really pretty well out of harm's way there and shouldn't be a problem for these guys. And once they've been around a couple of times, they know where it is. They won't have to bother. There we see Alan Prost coming up to put a lap on Eddie Cheever there in the picture, who is very, very closely following Riccardo Patrese. No, that's Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna making a charge to the field. Now, this is the sort of charge that should be absolutely electrifying. He'll probably turn in some incredibly quick laps as he winds everybody in, and he's got a lot of people to wind in if he wants to get back onto the lead lap and finish in the points. He's running at the moment in 14th spot. And his next intended victim is going to be Andrea de Cesaris, who's one lap down. Of course, de Cesaris, who got off to a great start today, but unfortunately had that tangle with Derek Warwick early on, which has now put him down to 13th spot. Otherwise, we could probably expect to see Warwick and de Cesaris right up there at the front of this race. But of course, if pigs had wings, they'd fly.
Eddie Cheever is one of the more self-effacing guys in Formula One, and he was a little bit taken aback, I think, by his recent notoriety in Phoenix. We asked if it would affect his approach to the race.
I think when you're a racing car, it really doesn't make that much of a difference when you're actually driving it. But I mean, it does put your mind to focus on the fact that you have to do well during the weekend. Yes, I mean, I've had a pretty undramatical year up to this point. I've had 2 7th places, and this is as good an opportunity as anywhere to give it that little extra bit more.
And right now, Eddie Cheever has the defending world champion right behind him, Ayrton Senna, who's probably got a pretty good head of steam up, and we'll have to see how they negotiate. Here comes the turn 13-14 complex, the double apex turn where we saw most of the action this weekend. Everybody getting through cleanly.
Oh! Eddie Cheever went round there very well, and in fact put a bit of daylight between himself and Senna, who came whistling around. Stefano Motta has had a spin, or at least he's gone straight on somewhere up one of the escape roads. Coming back onto the track now.
As the afternoon wears on, those tires get worn and the drivers get very hot and very tired. Just hope they can keep it between the concrete walls. This is not a place like Mexico or perhaps like Imola, Italy, where you've got grass on either side and a place to go off. If you go too far to the left or the right, you're going to hit something totally immovable.
Modernist car's dropping something out the back there, smoking or leaving some fluid.
And you can see the oil all over the front of Modna's white helmet. He definitely has a problem. Meanwhile, up front, Alain Prost is your leader, followed by Kathy Berger, Patrese Cheever, and Brundle. More drama in the streets of Phoenix at the Iceberg U.S. Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna is back in the pits. Here's John.
Ayrton Senna was shaking his head saying, "Give it up, folks, I'm getting out of this." They stuffed him back in the car, said, "You're not going anywhere." The same misfire was going on all the way down the pit lane. He's taking on a bit of water, but the McLaren boys, they once again are all over the engine. The Honda boys are all over this engine, trying to change plugs and the black box. A very disappointing USA Grand Prix for Ayrton Senna.
Of course, the same time that Ayrton Senna came into the pits, Alex Caffey came in and lost that great second spot.
There you see Alain Prost, who is the leader and pulling away here in the streets of Phoenix. And if it's any comfort to Ayrton Senna, in all the years of the Formula One Grand Prix in the United States, only 4 men have won the race in the year of their world champion. Senna himself is one of them back in 1988. Before him in 1980, Alan Jones, when they ran up in Watkins Glen. In 1976, James Hunt. 1975, Niki Lauda. In 30 years, they are the only drivers to win the USGP in their championship years. Don't forget, from here we move on to the World Championship Round 6 at Canada. The Molson Canadian Formula One Grand Prix coming up Sunday, June 18th. And our ESPN coverage will begin at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. If you want to go to the race in person, you can call the ticket hotline, area code 514-392-0000, or call Ticketron at area code 514-288-2525.
Well, what a turn-up we've got now. We've got Gerhard Berger in second spot, but nearly a minute, 51.5 seconds behind Alan Prost. Behind him is Riccardo Patrese, moved up to third. Eddie Cheever is now fourth in front of the home crowd. Alex Caffey is 5th, but I suspect, in fact, he's further back than that. Martin Brundle is 6th and got a point. And Jonathan Palmer has pulled right from the back of the grid to 7th spot, so he'll be waiting for a bit more attrition.
You saw Gerhard Berger go flying over a part of the racetrack where it's coming up. I believe that was the turn at 5th Street and Monroe. Turn 6 area. There you see the patch right on the driver's line. David, does that look like a problem?
Well, it's a very small patch, so I don't think it's too much of a problem yet. I'm surprised, in fact, this track under this intense heat hasn't broken up more on the line. Of course, we saw that concrete patch where we had a spin earlier on from, well, where Derek Warwick, in fact, got out of control. That broke up on Thursday in the very, very first practice they had here, but otherwise the track has stood up well. I don't think that little patch is going to be a problem, but with the advent of our great camera work, we can keep a very close eye on it and see just what a problem it becomes.
And I understand the kart race up at Milwaukee, Wisconsin is now over. We welcome those of you tuning in from watching the Miller 500 up there. Rick Mears, the winner, followed by Mike Andretti and the Porsche of Teo Fabi. Good victory there for all the guys on the Quaker State Porsche team. Not a victory, really, but I suppose third place might seem like a victory at this point. They've had a rough couple of years getting that Porsche IndyCar program going, and it looks like they're on the right track. Meanwhile, this is your leader, Alain Prost, who took over when his teammate Ayrton Senna, who had led from the start, suffered an engine misfire and parked it in the pits. Senna is now back out on the racetrack, but he is way back in 16th position, and we make your top 5. Prost, followed by Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari, Ricardo Patrese in the Williams, followed by Eddie Cheever of the United States in his USF&G Arrows, Alex Caffey, who ran 2nd for a while before coming into the pits for a tire change, Martin Brundle in the 6th and final points-paying position. There's a look now at the interval between Prost and Berger, and this has to be an exciting moment. Prost sort of the... What am I talking about? Wait a minute. Prost is way down at the bottom of the racetrack. You see the battle is for 2nd place. Berger, Patrese, and Cheever all very close together. Extremely close there on the top part of the map there. Meanwhile, Prost has got about half a lap lead, or just a little bit over half a lap actually on time, and there we see Alain Prost. His teammate Senna, as you said, is back on the track, but he's a long way down, 2 or 3 laps down. Those other 3, though, as they race down Washington Street there, are very, very close together. Cheever right behind Patrese. We may want to get to that battle in the very near future as you watch Alain Prost continue to circulate. In fact, we'll take you to the battle for 2nd place right now. Berger in the Ferrari. And you've got to wonder about Gerhard Berger's conditioning. He has come back from that incredible Imola crash just 6 weeks ago, working out very hard. His hands are still very raw, even though he only shifts with the first 2 fingers of each hand. But perhaps adrenaline alone is enough to carry Gerhard Berger to 2nd place here today. Behind him is Ricardo Patrese. I believe that's the lap AGS directly behind him of Gabriele Tarquini. Behind that car is Patrese. The battle for 2nd place here on the streets of Phoenix. Gerhard Berger, whose Formula One career nearly ended just before he got his first ride. He was involved in a terrible road crash, flipping his car. Luckily for him, the car immediately following him was a pair of German doctors who cleared his airway and got him stabilized, got into a hospital. And so Gerhard Berger is doubly lucky in his race driving career. It almost never started, and it nearly finished 6 weeks ago in Imola. There you see Gabriele Tarquini replacing the injured Philippe Streff of France. Streff had a pre-race accident in Rio and was not able to continue the season. There you see Ricardo Patrese of Italy. He is the 3rd place car. Directly behind him, Eddie Cheever in the USF&G Arrows, who may have a shot at 3rd place in the very near future. And of course, looking out the window, which commentators are not supposed to do, I think we're missing Martin Brundle. There we see Patrese going around Tarquini, Eddie Cheever about to try and do the same. Yes, Tarquini's going to let him go through. Well done, that man. Now there you see Martin Brundle, indeed, sitting in the pits. Looks like he's going to get a tire change, and they're poking around the front left corner of the car. I wonder if they've got a brake problem as well. It could be that this extreme heat has brought on some brake fluid problems, because it's fairly tough on brakes. They reach 155, just about 155 miles an hour a couple of times here, with very, very slow corners ensuing, which obviously requires pretty heavy braking. There you see Gerhard Berger right now, still shown in 2nd place. And there is daylight between himself and Patrese. He is indeed pulling away. There is Ricardo Patrese running in 3rd position. Behind him, Eddie Cheever has also dropped back just a bit.
Ricardo Petresi, of course, we saw earlier on this year in Rio, had a great race. Very, very nearly won it. They tried to be just a bit clever on their tyre choice, or they knew they were going to have to change tyres. They tried to stay out just a little bit too long, and he lost a lot of time and ultimately had an electrical failure. But one ran extremely well during the Rio race and is running very well today, up in third spot. And, of course, the second last week in Mexico. So this will be a great help for the Renault Williams team. Boutsen, meanwhile, strapping right down the back of the field in 15th spot, not having a very happy weekend at all.
Well, we have yet to see one simple tire pit stop. The only reason the drivers have been coming into the pits thus far are for mechanical problems. Nevertheless, Alain Prost leads, Berger is second, Petresi is third. Track Facts are brought to you by USF&G Asset Management, a network to better manage money, people, property, and equipment.
They're cleaning up the air in Formula One. And a latest example is this small vertical wing located just behind the front suspension of the Aero's A11. Its purpose is to channel the air around the chassis and actually deliver a cleaner air flow some 8 feet behind to the rear wing. This allows the engineers to actually use a smaller mass in building the rear wing that reduces drag and increases straight line speed. So in Formula One, as they clean up the air, they should lower lap time.
And in fact, they have done that. The McLaren team went to Paul Ricard, the site of the upcoming French Grand Prix, you'll see here on ESPN, where they did a race length test, and Alain Prost went over a minute faster than he did last year, running the entire race with turbocharged power. So obviously aerodynamics, the name of the game this year, because they're only getting about 600 horsepower from the normally aspirated engines, as opposed to the 800 and 900 horsepower they had with turbo cars. Meanwhile, look at the battle you got right here between Alex Cappy running in fifth and Dr. Jonathan Palmer in the unsponsored and pristine blue Tyrrell running just behind.
Jonathan Palmer only qualified fairly well down the field yesterday afternoon, has not had a very good weekend until today. And he ran 10th this morning in warm-up, which was fairly encouraging for them. And I did think he'd rush through the field a bit quicker than he has done this afternoon, but he's getting on with the job now and is giving Alex Cappy a very, very hard time. Alex Cappy, one of the young Italian up-and-coming drivers on Pirellis, and of course Jonathan Palmer on good years in the Tyrrell there.
Jonathan Palmer had a very interesting comment to make about driving with Michele Alboreto on his team. He said, all my career, I've had drivers that I was a lot better than. Now I'm with a guy who's at least as good as I am, and it's making me a better driver. That's an odd statement, I would think, from the big egos we find in Formula One. Meanwhile, Ayrton Senna is back into the pits once again. We won't show it to you, but he is back, and his problems continue, and that could mean big news for Alain Prost. 9 points for a victory here, and no points for Senna would put Alain Prost back on point in the World Championship standings.
Of course, with the way the World Championships added up, those 0 points or low points, of course, get taken away at the end of the year, especially if these two have a clean-up like they did last year. They're going to have to start giving the points away after the halfway stage of the year. It's interesting to watch these two cars as they go around this street circuit. The Dallara does not seem to like the bumps quite as well as the Tyrrell. The Tyrrell suspension seems to work very, very well. White flag is out there. White flag usually means a slow-moving car, so expect a slow-moving car to... Oh, there it is, been pushed behind. That's one of the Minardis.
That's Luis Perez Sala, the young Spaniard who has parked his new Minardi at the side of the track. Tough break for him.
So that is the long wheelbase Minardi out of the race. Not a good afternoon, as you say.
The long wheelbase car, the teammates, the members of the team say we've got the only station wagon in Formula One.
Alex Cappy here put a bit of daylight between himself and Jonathan Palmer now. Look at that muck all over Jonathan Palmer's helmet. You can see how much the oil, dust, rubber dust, exhaust gunge coming out of these cars get sprayed onto the driver behind. That's why they have those little tear-offs. You see them put their hand up sometimes to the side of their head and make a movement. It's putting off these little tear-off slips.
And at this point, one has to wonder whether or not that is the reason Jonathan Palmer is slowing down some. Maybe he's run out of tear-offs and he just plain can't see what's going on in front of him.
And of course, it could be that if Alex Cappy is the one that's dropping all of that, Jonathan Palmer may be reasoning that in another 20-odd laps, he won't make it anyway.
Ken Tyrrell, 65 years of age, celebrated his 65th birthday on the way to the Grand Prix of Monaco, driving one of his own trucks. There you see car number 28. That is Gerhard Berger having a great day, still in second position, although he is 52 seconds down to the leader. Behind him, Ricardo Petresi and Eddie Cheever still going at it. That is the battle for third place, really. Well, third place behind Berger, who is in second.
But if these guys, I mean, there's Eddie Cheever within an absolute sniff of second spot in this race, which will no doubt be galvanizing him. And they have, in fact, closed up on Gerhard Berger, who had a much bigger lead in that just a few moments ago.
True. Effectively, they're battling for second place. By the way, that battle between Caffey and Palmer were the last 2 cars on the lead lap. Only 6 cars, all 6 points getters in this race, if they stay healthy, are on the lead lap. Everybody else, at least 1 lap down.
Which is always something that fascinates me in racing, because as John Bisignano said at the beginning of this race, this whole field, effectively, apart from the 2 McLarens, was covered by 2 seconds. And yet here it is that some people are down 2 and 3 laps adrift already. It's incredible where the time goes to once the race starts.
2 Grand Prix victories in 181 GP starts for Riccardo Patrese. And he got to that 180 race mark much quicker than anyone else before him. 176 was the previous record, and that was held by Graham Hill, who took to 8:46, and by Jacques Lafitte, who was 42 at his 100.
Stefan Johansson going around the inside there of Christian Danner in the Real. Stefan Johansson, that sort of mauve-colored car, which is the Onyx Ford, a very newcomer to Formula 1 racing this year. The Real, designed and built in Germany, and of course driven by Christian Danner, the only German driver in this race. A bit on the tall side. In fact, he had to stay out of Formula 1 for a couple of years there, because no one had built him a car big enough so he could get his head below the legal height.
Stefan Johansson, in 8 years of Formula 1, at least the last 8 years, he has driven for 8 different teams. He has been a Ferrari driver, he has been a McLaren driver as a partner to Alain Prost, and right now Christian Danner is giving him all that he can handle. That is a brand new team this year. Only in their second race is Stefan Johansson with the Onyx team, as we get back to our leader, Alain Prost. And the man behind that team, millionaire Jean-Pierre Van Rossum, major shareholder in Moneytron, which makes computerized machinery for keeping track of the stock exchanges over in Europe, is reportedly offering $8 million to attract a top-line driver to the Onyx team in 1990. I'll bet there's a couple of fans out there who would say he already has one in Stefan Johansson.
Well, that's true, but Stefan, over the years, has proven just not quite able to come to grips with the likes of this man here, Alain Prost, who he was his teammate in the Marlboro McLaren 2 years ago, and of course before that he was a teammate of he was in the Ferrari team and just couldn't quite get the job done.
Let's go down to the pit lane now.
Bit of an update on some of the people that aren't having such a good race weekend this weekend. Nigel Mansell, there was a voltage regulator. He kept losing voltage all throughout the engine. They came in, they changed the battery as we first reported. He went back out, and of course the alternator was the thing that was really wrong, and he could not get it back to the pits to be fixed. Nelson Piquet came in for a straightforward tire stop. He was on B's, and they put him back out on C's. Senna is out of the car now after 3 stops with massive electrical problems.
And there you see the car of Gerhard Berger making its way around. The last time by, Alain Prost was given the pit sign saying Senna out. And that is certainly a great relief, I'm sure, to Alain Prost. Now, Berger has dropped back a couple of positions. There was a battle, as you recall, but Patrese and Cheever have both gone by, and one has to wonder about Gerhard Berger's condition, both he and the race car.
Maybe he's got the same voltage leak in his Ferrari that Nigel Mansell had in his. I can't imagine that his hands would have gone off that quickly. He was doing so well from a driving point of view, but now he is obviously slowed up a lot and has some sort of a car problem.
We'll have to watch if Gerhard Berger will try to just hang it out, try to get the points, or if he'll pull onto pit road. There's the entrance. He goes right on by.
Not going into pit road, and Patrese and Cheever are still locked in combat as Berger goes by our position here. Now back in 4th spot.
The sun beginning to get low here at Phoenix. There's a glare on the streets and off the race cars, as you can see. Gerhard Berger makes his way around. Now, he's not swinging side to side on the racetrack and using up all of the track as he was earlier. He's keeping pretty much to a straight line between the corners, as you see. Now he gets onto the sweeping left-hander of Jefferson Street. And he'll make a left turn around the Civic Plaza and drive all the way around the block, making his way up the street. And there's a good look high overhead at the Goodyear Blimp Columbia, being captained today by Charles Russell out of Downey, California. That's the view he has. We're in the hands of a 15-year veteran. Alain Prost remains your leader. There's an interesting leaderboard in Formula 1 this year. We'll be right back. There you see the crippled machine that has ended the day for young Alex Cavi, the 25-year-old Italian who ran so well up to second at one point, but then he parked next to the wall. We'll take another look at what happened. There he is to the left. Oh, that's his teammate, De Cesaris, who pinched him off into the wall.
Well, that's the second pinch of the afternoon for De Cesaris, so I suppose we can call him the pinch hitter of Formula One racing. He's one of those drivers who's always had a lot of criticism aimed at him, and there we see his teammate's car being lifted over, and that was one of those things that was, really speaking, pretty unnecessary to push that hard.
And Andrea
couldn't go too wide, mind you, because those tires on the outside of the corner, but still and all.
There is your leader, Alain Prost, making his way around. He knows that his teammate Ayrton Senna is out. He knows that he now has the opportunity to take the lead in the World Formula One Driving Championship. I was about to say that an Andrea De Cesaris fan cornered me down in Mexico last weekend and said, why do you people insist on calling him De Crasherus?
Well, I just can't for the life of me imagine why.
I said, I'm just a good reporter lately. Everybody else calls him that, so I figured I should too. Nevertheless, there was a good example. His second incident of the day. The first one, arguably as much Derek Warwick's fault as it was Andrea De Cesaris's. As you check out the gap here on our computerized map. At that time, Andrea De Cesaris simply clocked his teammate Alex Caffey, and that will make for a very quiet taxi ride to the airport.
Absolutely. A very good debrief in the old motorhome with a bit of Campari and soda being thrown around. De Cesaris is one of those drivers who's been in Formula One for a long time now, and a lot of people, of course, question sometimes as to just why he's in Formula One at all, let alone for a long time.
55 laps make that now complete. Alain Prost, who had lapped previously at 1 minute 40 seconds, very, very slow, has now trimmed that back down to 1:37.4. The shadows grow long here. Prost with a 46-second lead over Riccardo Patrese, and he is followed by Eddie Cheever having a glorious day in his original hometown, Phoenix, Arizona. There you see the leaderboard, Prost, Patrese, and Cheever, followed by Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari. 2 weeks from now, our ESPN cameras will be in Canada for the next stop on the FIA World Championship Tour, the Molson Canadian Formula One Grand Prix, Sunday, June 18th. ESPN coverage beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget, if you want to attend the race, you can get tickets by calling area code 514-392-0000. That's the hotline number. Or you can call the Ticketron outlet at area code 514-288-2525. And in between, don't forget, we'll be bringing you live exclusive coverage in North America of the 24 hours of Le Mans, auto racing's ultimate test of endurance, beginning Saturday, June 10th at 9:55 Eastern Time, live on ESPN. It'll be the first showdown between Mercedes and Jaguar since 1958. I remember that race from last year, and I hope you'll be with us once again this year. Should be a great race. Meanwhile, Alain Prost having things his way with a 43-second lead over Riccardo Patrese. Running third is Eddie Cheever, 2 seconds behind Patrese. Gerhard Berger running in the fourth position, 17 seconds behind Cheever. And there's young Eddie right now, and he still has a shot at second place.
He certainly does. All it needs is a slightest slip from Riccardo Patrese, and he'll be right in there to second spot. And of course, if he was extremely lucky, Prost would drop out there. We see Johnny Herbert, the young British Lion, who's in fact losing ground to Christian Danner, even though Danner's car doesn't sound too good. It looks as if Johnny Herbert is not handling too well. And I've been watching Herbert's pit board, and he's losing about a second a lap to Christian Danner, and in court, De Cesaris is pulling up on him.
Now, I think Gerhard Berger may have a problem back in the fourth position. He has been passed by everybody, and he's beginning to lose even further ground. Look, he should have come around, and there he is. He's the second car in line. That's Andrea De Cesaris and the Dallara in front of him, I believe. Gerhard Berger has really had a fight on his hands just managing that Ferrari out there today, bouncing down Jefferson Street, the front straightaway here in Phoenix, and the right-hand turn.
Well, we have no idea, of course, what's wrong with him, whether it's him or his car, but he's obviously just going for the finish at this stage and taking it very, very coolly to try and make sure he gets there.
Once again, he's not getting close to the walls, and he's very slow around those turns. I wonder if Gerhard Berger is all right in that car.
Well, it may be, of course, that he can't get a gear, and it may be that he's stuck in something like fourth or fifth gear, which around here, of course, would be disastrous with all these very slow, tight corners. If he's stuck in a tall gear, it could be disastrous for him.
Of course, Gerhard Berger is lucky to be alive today. Recall the race at Imola earlier this year when he had a tremendous crash and fire. We'll take you back and remember when he went off the track, 170 miles an hour, the car pummeling the wall, and then the worst of all, fire as the car exploded in flames when the gas tank was punctured. After 20 seconds, he was pulled from the car, and we asked him how he's doing now.
The skin is very thin. The chase is still not strong. The hands are not very strong too, because 1 month no exercise, nothing, because just stay like this. So I feel very much in the steering. But how you can improve if you sit at home? You have to drive and you improve again.
Gerhard Berger, Willie Dungle is
coming in the pits.
Whoops, Gerhard Berger's on pit road. Willie Dungle is the trainer in Austria who worked with Niki Lauda after his terrifying fiery crash at, I believe, the Nürburgring so many years ago. John Bizignano is waiting on pit road right now for Gerhard Berger and that crippled Ferrari.
Gerhard Berger has just reached the pit. He's giving everyone virtually the wave off. The Ferrari mechanics, they aren't really doing anything to the car. They're communicating through the radios. Gerhard now has taken off the steering wheel. Both Ferraris out of the USA GP.
And that will mean television's clicking off, certainly over in Italy, as the Ferraris have now dropped out of the race. About 200,000 fans left the track at Imola after both Ferraris dropped out there.
Well, a disappointing day for Italy generally, because Mansell was going so strongly early on, as was Cafe and De Cesaris and Stefano Modena, all out of this race this afternoon. We knew it to be a race of high attrition. This type of circuit always does lead to complications because there's so much emphasis and so much strain put on particularly transmissions, drive shafts and this sort of thing. And of course the automatic, semi-automatic on the Ferrari being a bit suspect anyway, it would appear it's too much for it.
And with the Ferrari out, there are 9 cars still circulating the 2.36-mile Phoenix Street Course. Your leader, Alain Prost, followed by Patrese, Cheever, Palmer, Danner, and Herbert, and we'll be back in a moment. For the 10th straight year, ESPN is presenting live coverage of the NCAA College World Series. Up to 14 games leading to the championship. Bob Carpenter and Ron Franklin doing the play-by-play. Jim Cott and Ray Knight providing analysis. Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll see Wichita State versus Florida State. And that is Game 6 of the College World Series. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time tonight here on ESPN. Meanwhile, we have the Iceberg United States Grand Prix still to finish up, and it will finish up without running the entire 80 laps. There you see Gabriele Tarquini being shown the blue flag, meaning you've got a faster car behind you, so hold your position and let him get around you. I've been mispronouncing his name all day long. It is Tarquini. Now here you see Riccardo Patrese with Eddie Cheever right behind him. This is second place on the racetrack, and this could be a great moment for Eddie. I expect we'll get a big cheer out of the thousands of people gathered here if their boy, Phoenix-born Eddie Cheever, can get past Patrese and into second position.
Well, he certainly made up a lot of ground on him in the last couple of laps and is now giving Patrese a very hard time to go, as we have not got all that long to go. Probably about 12 minutes. This race will obviously end short of the supposed 80 laps. We've got about 12 minutes to go before it ends.
Now, operating on the assumption that these cars were going to lap at about 105 to 110 miles an hour on the average, officials set this race distance for 81 laps. I know it's been saying 80 on our leaderboards, but that doesn't include the reconnaissance lap, the slow lap they make before the green light, and that is officially included in the total. So they decided they might drop it back to 70 once they saw that the cars were only going to lap at about 95 miles an hour when they actually got to the racetrack. But one car owner objected to shortening the race, and that's all it takes to kill the idea. Ken Tyrrell decided that he wanted to run 80 laps, and so they have, and it apparently is working. If it's Ken's strategy that his cars will do better if they go 80 laps, he's right, because right now Jonathan Palmer is holding down 4th position.
And they'll probably end up with about 76 laps under the belt. In fact, some of the teams here are showing laps to go, which would end up as 76 laps. Another interesting little race is going to take place is between Danner and Johnny Herbert and Andrea De Cesaris. Herbert is constantly losing ground to Danner and is being gained on by Riccardo Patrese, Andrea De Cesaris. Of course, suddenly that has become very, very important because they're duking it out for the last point, i.e. 6 spots. At the moment, Johnny Herbert holds. If De Cesaris catches him up in the next few laps, because there's only a few left, he will take that point and demote Herbert to being pointless. Danner, of course, will get 2 for 5th, and Jonathan Palmer at the moment running in 4th spot, which is going to be great for Tyrrell.
Cheever, 31 years old, 122 Grand Prix starts. He has yet to score a victory, but second place would certainly be at least a moral victory for young Eddie today. Let's go back down right now to John Visignano in the pits.
We were trying to get a Gerhard Berger interview, and he absolutely virtually collapsed in front of us. He's behind these closing garage doors, lying on the floor. They hadn't even taken his helmet off of him yet. They were pouring water down to try and cool off the back of his neck. And of course, they had removed his shoes, and they were pouring water all over his feet. Right now, Gerhard Berger is a very sick man lying in the Ferrari garage.
Well, that just shows the tremendous importance of physical fitness in Formula One. Gerhard Berger normally would be very fit, but has been unable to train. As he said, when you sit at home, you cannot use your hands. Very difficult to train when your hands are burnt and you've got a broken shoulder blade and a broken rib. And, of course, he's paid the price today.
Physical fitness is very much on the mind of Eddie Cheever. You know, tobacco advertising is a very strong part of the currency of Formula One, as it is many other kinds of motorsports. Probably the only driver in the 26 that started today's race that you will find without any tobacco advertising whatsoever on his uniform is the guy right there in the white USF&G arrows, Eddie Cheever.
Of course, the Ferrari drivers, too, both elected to start without any sort of cool suit advantage. Both these drivers, for instance, are wearing cool hats. Dennis Carlson, one on the Williams car, and the Cheever they use a different model.
There you see the elapsed time in the race thus far. 2 hours will be the time limit. We certainly won't make the 80-lap limit by that time, so roughly 12 minutes and counting remaining in this race. Your leader remains Alain Prost, his lead 42.9 seconds. Eddie Cheever running just behind second place Riccardo Patrese, as you see right there in the middle of your screen. Eddie with a real good shot at second place for the day's out. Patrese slides to his right to block him, and I think it worked, at least for this lap. Riccardo Patrese in the Williams was able to keep the USF&G arrows of Eddie Cheever just behind him. This is going to be a dandy battle all the way to the finish, and we'll let you know what happens when we return to Phoenix. In the waiting moments here in Phoenix, we hope you've been enjoying our exclusive ESPN live coverage of the Formula One Iceberg United States Grand Prix from Phoenix, Arizona. ESPN Speed World coverage has been brought to you by Pirelli Tires, original equipment on the world's finest automobiles. By Quaker State Motor Oil, the big Q stands for quality, always has, always will. And by Alfa Romeo and your local Alfa Romeo dealer, who invite you to drive a Spider today. From high overhead, the Goodyear Blimp Columbia has been giving us great pictures all day long here at the Phoenix USGP. There you see the continuing battle between Riccardo Patrese in second place and Eddie Cheever in third place. You saw the tires lock up. Patrese has been all over the racetrack trying to keep Cheever behind him. This one's not over yet, folks.
Well, it certainly isn't, because Patrese and Cheever used to be teammates at Alfa Romeo many years ago, and apparently they did not get on very well in those days, and I'm sure that some of those old feelings of antagonism are rising, especially in the bile of old Edward Cheever there, as he tries to get around his old teammate Riccardo Patrese. Riccardo Patrese, never one of the easiest men to pass at the best of times, and this is certainly not the best of times.
Well, let's see now if Eddie can close up a little bit on him as they make a long run down the backstretch on Washington Avenue here in Phoenix. You see Patrese drifts left.
I suspect, actually, that the Renault V10 has got just that little bit more oomph than the V8 Ford of Eddie Cheever. And, of course, they've got to do these little twisty bits. That doesn't mean for much, but as soon as they come to Jefferson or Washington, Patrese can probably pull out just that little bit, which makes it that much tougher for Eddie to actually get inside him and get around him.
About 8 minutes remain here in the 2-hour time limit of the U.S. Formula One Grand Prix. Here they come out of the front straight. Eddie got a great run at him there. Let's see if he'll be able to close it up.
He certainly makes good use of that last double apex corner. It's the trickiest corner here on the track, but look at Patrese using all that road. No way he's going to get round in there.
Tactical drift.
And he pulls out just a bit down that straight too, which makes it difficult. Now Eddie seems to gain a little bit through here, so he's right behind him now as they come through this tight complex. Back onto, this is the tightest corner of the race coming up.
Patrese getting a little bit squirrely there, obviously doing everything he can to keep Cheever and the arrows behind him. Alain Prost remains the leader. We have 69 laps complete with less than 8 minutes remaining in the U.S. Formula One GP.
Coming up to lap Christian Danner, who's running in fifth spot at the moment. That might give one of these two cars a break. This is the time when one must keep one's head when all about you're losing
at the emotion in the Arrows pits. They have not gotten this close to the lead in a long time at Arrows, and they would very much like to get this second place. A big difference between second and third for these guys.
What a shame that Derek Warwick had that small moment of brain fade earlier on in this race. Otherwise, both those Arrows could right be in there for the points at the moment. Now they're caught up with Dana.
I got the bad news for you, David. If it's us against John and Marty down in the pits in the pick 6 today, we're losing right now. I make the score 4 for them and 2 for us. We'll have more on that before we leave you here today from Phoenix. There you see Ricardo Patrese pulling up now behind Christian Danner. And as the battle goes on, Marty has Eddie
Cheever's best call. Look at the way he picks up on Patrese. They come through there.
Let's see. There's Patrese, gets out of the way, and Cheever is stuck now behind the Real. He slides over too.
Ooh, giving him a bit of
close moment there, and it happened right in front of the pits where Marty is standing by with Eddie Cheever's wife.
This is a very nervous Rita Cheever. This has got to be probably the most exciting moment also for you since your baby was born about 6 months ago.
Yes, it's almost close experience. I'm very sick in my stomach. Too nervous.
You're not out by the wall watching, but I know you're keeping close tabs.
Yes, I prefer to stay here. I'm too nervous today.
Let's go back out on course because the battle's still going on.
What's she going to do when he's battling for the win? Pretty ladies, Rita Cheever. And nice folks, too, Eddie and Rita.
Now, that seems to have slowed him up a little bit there. That getting around Dana looked good at one stage, but he's dropped back a bit now. He can't afford to do that because there's not enough time left in this race.
By the official Longines Olivetti clocks, there are barely 6 minutes remaining. There is your leader, Alain Prost, and behind him, Gabriele Tarquini in the AGS, who has been there for about 13 laps now since he was passed.
Now, if I was Alain Prost, I would be extremely nervous to have a back marker who I just lapped for the second time. I would be very nervous about having him hovering around quite that close to me. Okay, I'm Alain Prost, and I've definitely slowed up to pace myself because there's no way anybody's going to pass me in this race. But all you want is this chap behind you to make a slight slip and slide into you in one of these corners, which would be very easy from that distance behind. That must be Boutsen behind them there in the picture. I'm assuming it's not Patrese.
I thought I saw a flash of white helmet, but I'm not so sure. That must be Boutsen behind them because the battle wouldn't be that close. Right now, our electronic timing has Prost with a 38.5-second lead over Ricardo Patrese. Eddie Cheever behind him, the only 3 cars on the lead lap. As you mentioned, Prost has slowed down now to conserve fuel and conserve his victory. Fast lap of the day set by Ayrton Senna back on lap 38 at 133.969. And that will not be touched from here on out.
But of course, this will make victory number 36 of Alain Prost, which seems no time at all ago since he was battling to try and surpass Jackie Stewart's record 27 wins. And here he is, jolly nearly 10 more. Just a few months.
That is Ricardo Patrese. It's not Boutsen. What happened to Eddie Cheever? He has dropped back. He is behind the Real of Christian Danner now, and Eddie Cheever may have a problem. As you see, the Real, no problem handling the Arrows right now, even though Christian Danner is running with a real sour-sounding Real. He's got a broken exhaust manifold on that car.
Well, Cheever's obviously got some sort of problem. It could be any number of things. Tires obviously spring to mind, but they certainly look all right. With the sun shining on them there, you don't see any black marks or undue signs of wear and tear. He, in turn, of course, could have got stuck in a higher gear. He looks like he's going very slowly through these corners. Could be that he's stuck in the wrong gear.
Coming up to 3 minutes remaining in the U.S. Formula One Grand Prix, and right now, Eddie Cheever is just hoping that Arrows will last to the finish because there are cars on the racetrack within reach of him. If he should stop right now, he's just trying to preserve that third-place podium finish. And you know that throughout the grandstands here, thousands of native Phoenicians are pulling for Eddie Cheever.
The car didn't sound great when it went by here, but just sounded a bit down on power, almost as if he is stuck in a high gear.
The mechanics are lined up along their pit, just hoping and praying for Eddie Cheever. Meanwhile, here is your leader, Alain Prost. And that means that Ricardo Patrese at the back of your picture has closed up to challenge for the lead.
Very, very dramatically. Our Longines computer shows him as being a long way down, but he obviously is not.
No pit board yet to read to get some idea of whether or not Ricardo Patrese has any idea.
Can we get that? There might have a Thierry version, yeah.
Never mind. With the white visor across the front of his helmet, sorry folks, that is Terry Bootson.
Terry Bootson's been going so well all afternoon. It seems almost uncanny to me that he's not under points, because every time he goes past here, here's an Alan Prost car, about the only two that sound right.
Well, right now he's got his hands full with the AGS of Gabriele Tarquini. Boy, that was a close one. I guess we're going to have to trust our computer from here on out. Alain Prost wondered when he looked back and saw that little flash of white helmet in a Williams.
Well, they've got so many computers and signal boards and God knows what else in the McLaren pit. It's highly unlikely that they've left him hanging out there on the line for information.
Well, in all fairness to us, Eddie Cheever dropped back. Big gap open to Riccardo Patrese. That's my story, and I'm
Wasn't entirely
Patrese. That's right. 1:58.45. That means we have but 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining. Now, Alain Prost may choose to slow up a little here and see if he can, well, no, he's too close to the start-finish line. I suspect he's going to get one more lap when he finishes this one. But stranger things have happened, folks. No, let's take that back. I think he's back there on 3rd Street now, just coming out of the Marlboro Bridge. He'll make a right turn onto the long back straightaway.
He'll get around there before the time's over, for sure.
Well, there is just 45 seconds remaining. I don't think they will. I expect we'll see a checkered flag this time out as Terry Bootson goes way wide.
Now, I tell you what, Alan Prost is thinking. Okay, you guys, for God's sake, don't run into each other, don't run into me, don't hit the wall.
And Terry Bootson very nearly did that. He went right out onto the dust at the far corner, right up against the concrete.
Saying to himself, must he do all this macho stuff right around me at this stage of the race?
There you see him with a little skull cap of aluminum foil to ward off the sun's rays here on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. After a long and dramatic day here in Phoenix, it has certainly been a United States Grand Prix to remember, and it appears as though Alain Prost will certainly win it. Howsoever,
he didn't get the checkered flag that lap, did he?
He has just reached the 2-hour mark, and so for his alacrity, Alain Prost is sentenced to do one more lap here at Phoenix.
Just not quite got enough fuel.
Don't even dream it. This is the last lap for Alain Prost. We have it on highest authority that next time around, he will in fact see that long-awaited checkered flag. It has been a tough season, both mentally and physically for Alain Prost this year. But with the problems suffered by his teammate Ayrton Senna, who had electrical troubles, pitted twice and finally parked the second-team McLaren, Alain Prost has been unchallenged since the midpoint of the race, and it looks as though he will certainly go on to score a historic and record Formula One Grand Prix victory number 36.
And we also somehow let poor old Jonathan Palmer, Dr. Jonathan Palmer, slipped away from us there at one stage. Just a few laps ago, he was lying in 4th, but that position is now held by Christian Danner. Herbert has moved up into 5th spot, and Thierry Boutsen has finally, the reward of all that effort this afternoon, has taken 6th spot. 1 point.
That certainly explains why he was thundering around the racetrack the way he was.
That explains why he was thundering around Tarquini, because Tarquini was 6th until just that point.
There you see Alain Prost, in the minds of many, the finest Formula One driver who has ever lived, although he certainly has a tough standard to meet in his 29-year-old teammate, Ayrton Senna. A lot of people are wondering whether Alain Prost will be with McLaren next year. He has talked to Renault and to Peugeot, and the checkered flag is out for the man who may be the centerpiece of the first all-French Formula One team. Alain Prost says that's the way he wants to end his career.
And now that was a close finish, because I think the Boutsen's car either blew up, made the most horrendous noise, and guffed out a huge cloud of smoke as they went over the line, and Tarquini was right with him, so I'm not sure who crossed the line first for that final point.
But they still have to complete the lap, do they not?
Depends.
They were out in front of the guy who took the checkered flag, so my guess is they have to race around and decide that position. Nevertheless, Alain Prost is your winner. Second place, Riccardo Patrese. Third position goes to Eddie Cheever, Christian Danner 4th, Johnny Herbert 5th, Terry Boutsen 6th. We think.
Well, that's victory number 36 for Alain Prost, which is an absolutely outstanding record, and far and away more victories than anybody else has ever scored. There you can see the smoking Renault engine of Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian, in front of him as they go down Washington Street. The afternoon sun's shining right on their faces now. Boy, I bet these guys will really be glad this race is over. The heat must be tremendous.
There have been lots of records today. A record pole for Ayrton Senna, the 34th of his career. A record 36th victory for Alain Prost. There you see him circling around Gabriele Tarquini, and there is Eddie Cheever, and the crowd stands as he goes by, getting the gloves off after a long day's work. You see the taped hands of Eddie Cheever, who finishes in 3rd place, and he will be one happy native Phoenician when this one is over.
Faded right near the end there. We don't know why yet. And there's Eddie's wife being led to the victor podium. There we see the oil all over the front of Eddie's car. A lot of these cars this afternoon, obviously dropping a lot of oil all over his helmet there.
A victory, well, a 3rd place in the case of Eddie Cheever, certainly hard earned, with the temperature at 100 degrees. And as Marty mentioned at the top of the show, cockpit temperatures expected to reach 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Drivers have really earned their money today, as you see Eddie Cheever making his way under the Iceberg Bridge. And here comes Riccardo Patrese, 2nd place finisher in today's running of the Iceberg Formula One United States Grand Prix. We'll be back with final standings and get a close look at the top 3 finishers when we return. In Phoenix, you're watching live the winner of the United States Formula One Grand Prix, Alain Prost of France, who took over when teammate Ayrton Senna suffered electrical troubles at mid-race. There you see the final standings. Prost first, followed by Riccardo Patrese in the Williams. Eddie Cheever returns to his hometown of Phoenix and scores a podium finish in 3rd place, followed by Christian Danner of Germany with a great race in the young Real. Johnny Herbert, 24 years of age, gets another point. In 5th and in 6th place, Terry Boutsen of Belgium. Well, David, on the whole, I'd have to say that we took a bit of a beating today in our Pick 6 competition. You score Prost worth 1 point, since you only had him in 3rd instead of his winner's position of 1st. I came up with 1 point, also courtesy of Mr. Prost. Meanwhile, John had both Prost and Eddie Cheever in the top 6, so he scores 2 points. And Marty Reed, in his debut in our Pick 6 competition, makes a fool out of me. He picks up 2 points as well for Prost and Riccardo Patrese. There you see a part of the enormous crowd that turned out
to be born lucky than rich, I say.
And we have a lot of thank yous to folks who have helped make our ESPN host coverage of this Grand Prix turn out as fine as it did. The fans not going home. They're going to take a look at their winners, who will, I believe, get a ride on a car around. There you see driver points as they presently stand. Senna scored none today. Prost picks up a full 9 points for winning, so he takes the lead in the championship over his teammate by 2. Patrese now with 12 points on the season. Nigel Mansell, despite not finishing in the top 6, still has 9 points. Sandro Nannini, who dropped out early on for Benetton. And now the World Championship Constructors points. McLaren Honda, runaway leaders with 56 points. They'll have this one wrapped up before too very long. Followed by Williams with 16, Benetton, Ferrari, Arrows, and Tyrrell. We're still waiting for our winner to make his way to the rostrum. In the meantime, we'll take a timeout and come back for final thoughts from the Iceberg United States Formula One Grand Prix at Phoenix. Stay with us. The Union Jack waving high above the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. I'm not sure exactly why, except that perhaps Team McLaren is based in England, but it has been a truly international weekend. The race is now done and the parties have begun in the Valley of the Sun. There you see the sun-drenched crowd. Alain Prost, your winner, and La Marseillaise now plays on the podium.
Eddie Cheever shrugging himself in that uniform, hot and jolly uncomfortable.
Riccardo Patrese to the left of the picture, your 2nd place finisher. Eddie Cheever finishes 3rd.
Alain Prost in the position that he has stood in so many times. As I said before, 36 wins for this guy. Next behind him is Jackie Stewart, Louis Scott with 27, which doesn't seem so long ago that Alain Prost was struggling to get to 27, and now he's jolly near 37.
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt to have a McLaren Honda underneath. They have now won 19 of the last 21 Formula One races. Of course, this man...
I hate inconsistency. I just can't stand it.
Prost, of the part of the Gang of 5, they call them. Prost, Berger, Piquet, Mansell, and Senna, who have won virtually every Formula One Grand Prix race since 1986. And you can see from the uniforms on the drivers that they have spent a very difficult day. And now, of course, the international symbol of victory, the spray of champagne from the winner's podium.
Eddie Cheever warming, cooling those parts that other champagnes cannot reach.
A delightful man is Alain Prost, and a well-earned victory today. Mayor Terry Goddard of Phoenix, who the staff has worked so hard to make this race a reality, presents the trophy to Alain Prost. We will take another short break, and when we come back, we hope to have an interview with our winner from high overhead. The Goodyear Good Ship Columbia gives us the view of Phoenix. Live from Phoenix, Arizona, where the citizens of this great city have reclaimed their streets from the Formula One cars, and John Bizignano is standing by with our winner, Alain Prost.
Alain Prost taking on a little bit of fluid here after a very warm race. What was it really like out there with the heat and the walls and the competition?
After Ayrton stop, I must admit that the race was very easy, but I had to keep going, not too slow, because I have to concentrate myself. The track was breaking up a little bit, and it was not easy. I had also a tires vibration problem only at the end of the race. It was comfortable because I had about 40 seconds, even more sometimes, advantage. But it's never easy in this kind of condition, and the heat was a problem a little bit more at the beginning when I had to push harder behind Ayrton, but at the end of the race, well, physically was okay. It was only mentally, I mean, keeping concentration was a difficult thing.
Alain Prost, some people say that when you have that much of a lead, that it's an easy position, but what you're saying is you had to keep the concentration up because of a mistake that you could make?
Yes, because if I have to make a mistake, I think it's on this kind of track, because you have to be very close from the wall, otherwise you put your outside wheel on the dust and then you slide, and if you start to slide, then you have problems because you don't get the tires hit good, and you can do a mistake very easy. If it was on a very wide racetrack with no walls, nothing, I wouldn't have any problem, but yeah, it's quite difficult.
You also decided to go out on soft tires. In Mexico, you were a little bit in trouble on tires, we may say, but here they worked beautifully for you.
No, I chose the hard tires today. I was with 4Bs, which is the hardest campaign we had, and I think it was a little bit difficult the first part of the race, but I think I did a good choice again with my car. I don't know about other cars, but with my car I think it was a good choice. And when I was behind Ayrton in the beginning, I had to go back a little bit because I had the problems with the water and oil temperature. It was quite high, but then I think it was a good choice.
Our congratulations to Ricardo Patrese and the American driver Eddie Cheever in third place.
And in fact, hard to believe though it is, that is the first victory in a North American Formula One Grand Prix for Alain Prost. There are many people who have helped make our ESPN host coverage a success today. We'd like to thank the City of Phoenix and Mayor Terry Goddard and his staff, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department for their assistance in filming our Open. We'd like to thank Harley Cluxton for the use of his vintage Williams Formula One car, and Bob Flack for that pristine 57 Chevy that made it so much fun to get this show underway. Don't forget, coming up tonight, College World Series Baseball will be coming your way at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time. I'm Bob Barsha for David Hobbs, John Bizignano, and Marty Reed. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage, live coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of the United States, and you'll join us in 2 weeks from Canada, Le Mans coming up next Sunday. It's been a great race. Alain Prost is the winner. Eddie Cheever.